Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. So today we're continuing series, the Unported Playlist, where I take a look at my favorite unported arcade games of all time. If you can't tell already today, you did click on the thumbnail after all. We are playing Super Monkey Ball Ticket Blitz. This is basically a version of Monkey Ball exclusively for arcades. It was a ticket redemption machine, but now thankfully just recently was made available and playable on PC, so it can be enjoyed by absolutely everyone. And this is every bit as good as any other Monkey Ball game you played, although I am controlling it with an editing trackball, so it is a little bit more difficult for me. Before I get too far involved though, do me a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell. Definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But honestly, anything Monkey Ball is going to be absolute gold in my opinion. Sega 100% nailed it when they came up with this franchise. I've been playing every single Monkey Ball game since the beginning. And maybe a couple of years ago, I was up in Portland, Maine with the rest of my wife's family, and I took my nephew to an arcade and I saw a Ticket Blitz machine, and even though I didn't have any desire for tickets whatsoever, because I think most of those machines are just child casino gambling addictions, I did play and I did have a ton of fun with it, because honestly, more Monkey Ball is not a bad thing. And compared to some of the original Monkey Balls like the Naomi cabinet that had that banana analog controller, this machine uses a trackball, kind of the same concept as Golden Tee. Now I do have a Kensington Expert mouse that I use for film editing, and that does have a trackball, but it doesn't have the same ability to spin as quickly because it's not an arcade trackball. So what kind of works for this, it can also present a little bit more of a challenge. And I will say this jackpot level here, where you technically get a bunch of tickets if you hit it just perfectly, I've never been able to actually nail this one, but that's because the amount of tickets it would dispense in the arcade was a very big amount, so I think they made it almost impossible to actually complete because, again, child casinos with tickets. But as far as actually having another Monkey Ball game playable, especially one that you can only find in arcades, that's absolutely awesome. And because it is made by Sega, it has that Sega charm in the color. Monkey Ball was always kind of Sega at their most innovative. They had so many traditional games, racing games and Lincoln games, but Sega always loved to play around. And a game with monkeys in what basically amounts to a hamster ball, trying to roll themselves from one area to the other without falling off the course. On paper, you would think that that wouldn't really make a very good game, but in execution, every single Monkey Ball game is just highly addictive. It makes you want to jump back in and play time after time, and it really makes you want to try to get some of those high scores for the time at least. If you've never seen any speedruns for any of the Monkey Ball games, I can't recommend looking them up on YouTube enough. There's some people out there that just have an absolute mastery of something like Monkey Ball, and seeing it played at the height of its ability is just such fun. But again, I love arcade games that get preserved, and this was something that unless you found it in arcade, you just couldn't enjoy. And now today everyone can, because this happened about midweek last week and you're watching it on Monday. And as far as the courses are concerned, they seem to be a mix of different Monkey Ball courses. They're going to range in difficulty from relatively easy to pretty difficult, especially with that trackball configuration. The only unfortunate downside of the game is the courses are displayed at random. You put in coins, or in this instance virtual coins, you hit start and you're going to get a randomized course. So sometimes you might see the same 3 or 4 a few too many times in a row. Unfortunately, that is just kind of part and parcel as to how this game worked in arcades. And if you do want to play this, it does work on TechnoParrot, and if you get any sort of ticket jamming error, just go into the test menu and switch the game from ticket redemption to amusement. It'll remove the entire ticketing mechanic from the game, so you can just play it as a little Monkey Ball experience, because obviously this game isn't going to be anywhere near as fully featured as any of the arcade versions that came before, any of the home console versions as well. But for like 15 or 20 minutes, it gives you a really fun way to play Monkey Ball. If you do have an arcade cabinet, something set up for emulation like Golden Tee or any of those games, then you're going to have the perfect setup. And you can just control this with a mouse as well. Definitely going to be moving it around on the table a lot, but you want to bring some sort of trackball to it if you have the opportunity, just to get the most traditional feel. And that's the only thing you're going to do in the game. There's a start button, there's a coin button, and then you just roll the trackball around. But again, if anyone's ever hit this jackpot, leave me a comment down below, because even in the arcade in Maine, I was never able to do it. But it's soundtrack sample time, because incredible Sega Monkey Ball music, and I'll be right back with more. I mean, it's just your standard issue Monkey Ball music, so you've probably heard it once before if you've ever played any of the Monkey Ball games, but it is still some of the most iconic music Sega's ever made, because everyone always talks about just how good Sega arcade games are and that Sega Blue Sky aesthetic, all those bright cheery colors. But one of the things that Sega does as well as anything else is the soundtracks for their games. From Daytona to Scud Race to stuff like Monkey Ball, their musicians make some of the best tracks in gaming, and Monkey Ball is no different. Now this is where the game can get a little bit hard when you have to try to sweep around those corners with a trackball, because again, my entire experience with playing Monkey Ball is using either an analog banana stick, which I do have in the closet and can hook up to my Naomi. It's a super fun controller, I'll do a video one day on it, or just using something like an analog controller on any of the console ports. So this is the only time I've ever played Monkey Ball with a traditional trackball, and it does take a little bit to wrap your head around it. And I'm kind of surprised they didn't just put an analog stick on the cabinet, but maybe they wanted to make the game a little bit harder. And that is the thing, because this was a ticket redemption machine, they didn't really want to make it the easiest thing in the world. Collecting bananas in the world would equal tickets, but the real tickets came on that jackpot round when you're trying to shoot yourself through that little hoop. So really, I think whatever prizes you were getting for the tickets would definitely be way less than the actual cost to play the machine, because you really aren't getting all that many in a row. And that is the interesting thing about arcades today. So many franchises are just showing up as arcade quote-unquote games that'll just release tickets, kind of just preying on kids' recognition of certain franchises and thinking, I want to play that game. And the game is at best very rudimentary, and at worst just basically a money sink to give you some tickets to go get some stale candy from the ticket redemption booth. That's why something like Ticket Blitz is so much fun, because sure, it was designed to dispense tickets, but the actual gameplay mechanics are sound because it is just a different version of Monkey Ball, and I absolutely love that. And because this was very difficult to play if you didn't find an arcade cabinet before last week, it's one of those things. Every single Monkey Ball game should be playable, so getting another one preserved is going to be great, because trust me, once these machines stop seeing money in arcades, arcade operators are going to remove them, and it's going to be one of those things, maybe in 5 years, maybe in 10 years, actually seeing a Ticket Blitz machine is going to be a near impossibility, because arcade operators don't leave anything on the floor that isn't producing enough revenue, and if it isn't making money, then they're going to just switch it out for another machine. So stuff like this being playable on PC keeps the Monkey Ball dream alive, at least in this instance. But I'm going to do one more soundtrack sample, because again, some of the best music Sega's ever made. It does sound really good coming out of Technopara as well. About 45 seconds this time, and I'll be right back with just a bit more. I love how the music slows down when you're trying to go through that bonus arena. As we move on to this winner level here, you do get a decent amount of padding on the left and right hand side of the screen, because again, I don't think they wanted people to be too discouraged by having to take too many continues. But as far as this game is concerned, again, I love the bright cheery aesthetic of Monkey Ball. Pretty much every single game has had that charm to it. While some games are better than others, as a franchise it's been incredibly even as far as just having good releases are concerned. Leave me a comment down below and you tell me what your favorite Monkey Ball game is. I would say once they get into the console games, maybe some of the boss fights were a little bit difficult to play in the Monkey Ball format. They were still fun, but they could be a little bit frustrating, because I've always just loved the general stages. And if there's one thing I've always wanted to play, even though it seems like it might be nausea-inducing, is I'd love to see a Monkey Ball game in VR, something like Quest. I'm pretty sure that would probably just give you a massive headache, but I'd love to just be in the ball, kind of with the camera stable, and be able to turn my head left and right to actually articulate the turns, and then maybe use the analog sticks on the controllers to be able to actually kind of move around speed-wise. but Ticket Blitz is a fun game. It's probably one of the best games that dispenses tickets in arcades because it was still a Sega game. It's not like Sega wants to make a terrible experience. Sure, their arcade output today isn't anywhere near as good as it was in the golden years of the 90s and 2000s, but they still make a really fun game, and their most recent one I played, Mission Impossible, was a good time as well. But Monkey Ball Ticket Blitz is just a fun game that you get to play today if you so want to. And again, if you do want to play it, I can't recommend enough, turn off the ticket redemption mechanic. That way you don't get the ticket jammed error on the screen, because trust me, unless you have a ticket dispenser on your PC, there's no actual tickets going around, and that is just a signaling error on that jam. But again, leave me a comment if you've ever actually played this one in person. I feel like at least a few of you have maybe seen it. I saw it at a Round 1 arcade in Portland, Maine, but for the most part, probably still not the most common arcade cabinet out there. But anything Monkey Ball, 100% there for it. It's one of my favorite franchises of all time, not just from Sega, but from anyone in general. I'm glad to be able to play this one. But short of that, we're done. We're going to get the tape, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Ready?